So that will lead us to our first question. Dad, you joined the promo industry when you were still in high school, about 70 years ago. And how did you get involved in the, well, we like to average. How did you get involved in the industry?
A very unique way. I had two uncles that were in the scrap business. That is, they bought junk and made it into something better and sold it to people for steel. I walked in their office one day. We all lived in Waterloo, Iowa, a small Iowa community.
I was born there too.
Yes, you were. 4 of our 5 children were born there. And in any regard, they had a pile of Smucker preserves, about 100 packages, a dozen jars each. And I said, Uncle, what are you doing with these? And the reason I asked that question is my father had 5, we called them 80 years ago, supermarkets, but believe me, not compared to today's supermarkets. If you have a Wawa in your area, that's like what our supermarkets were. But in any regard, since we were in the grocery business, I couldn't understand this. And they said, we're giving them out as gifts. So I went back home and told my dad, why don't we sell gifts? And he said, okay, you want to give it a shot? So I wrote Smucker, it's a true story, in Orville, Ohio. Told him we were customers in a manner of speaking with our 5 little stores, probably sold 1/1,000,000th to 1% of the preserves they made every year. In any regard, they were very classy. Wrote back that unfortunately they couldn't sell us the gift packs because they had an exclusive arrangement with a company called Bankers Advertising, who are still customers of ASI and in our industry and have just celebrated an anniversary longer than I've been in the industry. And so for a couple of days I was down. Then I said to my dad, you know, Smuckers is not the only people that have items that could be food gifts. What if I write some other people? Which I did, and started selling food gifts to companies that gave them out to employees and customers, and eventually got into first as a distributor and then as a supplier in our industry. So I know that's not a very romantic way to explain, as the 2 young men just before us who have some amazing ideas got in our industry, but that's the truth of how I discovered the promotion products world.
And just so there's no confusion, we don't have any suppliers any longer. We don't have any distributors any longer. And
no, we are neither a supplier or distributor, nor have any interest in any.
And I guess it's kind of funny when we first acquired ASI. Tell about maybe why you acquired it. We were in the supplier business then, but why did you acquire ASI?
We were the largest advertiser. Don't be impressed. If we were the largest advertiser today of ASI, I would probably be sweeping the street somewhere. But in any regard, we were the largest supplier. They got in some financial difficulty, and we made an offer that was accepted by the people that they owed money to. And so that's how we got into the ASI business. But I told my father.
I want to interrupt for a second. I kind of remember you wanted to do it because you thought you'd get free ads.
Well, I told my father we could save money on advertising. I didn't realize that they were losing money when they're selling ads, so it would have cost us more. But that's how we got into the industry as ASI.
And you've seen so many changes in the industry over the years. When you think about the 70 years from when you first got involved to now, if you had to pick, what do you think is the biggest change with the industry now?
Gosh, there have been so many changes. When we got in the industry, there were about 3,000 distributors. And today there's more than 20,000. And there's so many other changes. There weren't, in the middle of my being in the industry, wearables, which is now maybe 1/3 of our industry sales. It's a whole different world. And if I went through the things that have changed, it would not only take the rest of today's program, but they'd have to put on a few more days. But there have just been so many changes. However, the basic concept has not changed. Promotion products work, and they give you a great return on investment. That hasn't changed in 70 years, not going to change in the future.
And what would you think is your most memorable sale when you think about your career?
Well, that was easy. I stayed when I started selling in YMCAs. I've been lived in more YMCAs, $10 a week, And just to impress you, my budget for food was there's the truth, $1 a day, because 7 years ago. In any regard, I was in a YMCA in Minneapolis, Minnesota, one of the giant companies in those days in Minneapolis. I went in, asked to speak to somebody involved in giving out gifts, and a person named Warren McCoy, you never forget your big customer, saw me. And he said the board of directors of Pillsbury had just decided to give a turkey to every employee. I said, we can handle that. Then I asked an interesting question. I said, about how many turkeys are you talking about? And I want to give you a perspective. Up until that point, our little company had probably sold, if you exaggerate, maybe 100 turkeys over 3 years that we've been in business. So I asked him how many. He said 7,000. I said, no problem. Keep in mind, I was a very young, not too bright kid. And so we got that order. Luckily, in those days, they didn't have internet where they could check and find out something about you. They would have found out I was 20 years old, that our business was in the basement of my parents' home, and I would never have gotten the order. But they didn't know that. So we got an order. I came back and told my father, Dad, I got a nice order. He said, tell me about it. And I did. He said, how are you going to finance it? Well, that was one problem. Then he said, you know, they want these 7,000 turkeys delivered all over the country to the many plants. They want them on the same day delivery. So how are we going to handle that? And how are you going to handle where they're going to keep storage because they're frozen till they get delivered to the individual employee? Well, those are all good questions. Eventually, I figured them out. Not only got the order, but kept the order for 5 years. One of the saddest days of my life, I walked in on the 6th year to Warren McCoy, and I see again, he said, I've got bad news for you. I said, what happened? I'm sure we can solve it. He said, the board of directors decided not to give turkeys or any gift. I said, why is that? He said, the union wants to put it in the contract that we have to give out turkeys. So our board is not going to do that. And so Pillsbury was no longer a customer. That was a sad day, but I never forgot my first sale.
You didn't forget your first sale. We also still at ASI remember your first sale, because every year for Thanksgiving, we give out the turkeys to our own employees.
Yes, that's true.
Reminiscent of that. And I think your story is very much what most of the entrepreneurial people in our industry are about. You know, seeing an opportunity, taking advantage of it, and making it work. So I've gotten the poll results, and so I think I'll share them with everyone. 32% of our listeners are first generation.
Okay.
7% are second. 17.9% are third. 7% are fourth, like we are, and 3% are fifth, and about 32% are not in a family business. So, you know,
that's interesting. Yes.
Why do you think our industry attracts so many family businesses?
I think because we're an industry of basically small companies. There are some giants, but basically small companies, and they're entrepreneurial. So that fits into people that are in family businesses. And they are able to pivot. Best example, and all of you know this, if 2 years ago, anybody watching this would have said to me, Norman, have you ever thought about masks or sanitizer or floor mats? I hope I'd have been polite. But when you walked off to talk to somebody else, I would have talked to my daughter Stephanie or my son Matthew and said, boy, those people don't have a clue about our industry. And yet, why last year are there some companies that were better sales than they had in 2019, the industry's best year? Because they pivoted and were able to go to those items. So that's one of the great things about our industry, why it attracts families.
I'm also reminding people, if you want to ask a question to Norman, enter it in the comments, and I'm keeping an eye on them. I'm happy to ask any questions, and I appreciate the nice comments that we look good. Some people think we look good, Dad. So,
well, that's because of you.
So our family's owned ASI since 1962. Why do you think having a family business is better for the industry, a family-owned business, than if we were part of a large investment group or public company?
There are some investment groups in our industry, and they're good people, I'm sure. However, every investment group has the same concept. They buy something, leave the people that are there in control, and the people that did own the business and now are running it for someone else have given them their 5-year plan, because every investment company program is buy at $1 or whatever and sell at $10 but in 5 years. And so as long as you make each of those 5 years, everything is hunky-dory. But let's say that we had done that. And with COVID, nobody could anticipate that. It wasn't like we made a bad decision that our sales were down 20% as were the industries last year. It's because of COVID. Well, in the fine print of when you sell out to an investment group, it says if you don't do what you said you're going to do in the next 5 years, they get to take control. And you can imagine when they take control, they're not thinking like our family, the long term, several generations down. They're thinking about how can we cut costs so that we can get closer to what we were promised. Cutting costs. Employees that are with you 20, 30 years and have done a great job, bingo, they're gone. And quit investing in technology because the investment people aren't going to be around more than 5 years. So that's why we believe as a family that the industry is best off that we stay as a private company, not owned by some giant investment firm.
And I would agree. And I think we can understand our customers that way. And
positively.
And what would you recommend to a new distributor or even a long-term distributor and what you believe is a good formula for success?
I've spoken to many of the regional associations over all these years. And I've had the same story then that I will share with you today. If you believe you're in a commodity business, first of all, big mistake. But if you do, you are never going to be the long-term, low-cost provider. Somebody is always going to sell for less than you. So when you walk in, if this is how you sell, into a prospect, and you see they have a ballpoint pen on their desk, and you say, with their name on it, and you say, I see you buy ballpoint pens. Tell me how much you pay, and I will sell it to you for 10% less. You may get the order, but believe me, you will not have over term a long-term profitable customer. However, come to a trade show, read and talk to suppliers who come to your office with their local representative. Listen to ideas they have. You bring an idea into a prospect and say, I think this is how you can use t-shirts or whatever you're bringing in, a mug. And if they listen and your idea works, they're going to be your long-term customer, even if every competitor in town comes there and says, I see you're buying mugs, t-shirts, we'll sell it to you for less. The point is you gave them an idea and it worked because we're in a simple business. If you help the end buyer's business grow, they're going to stay customers. And if you don't, they're going to do what you and I would do. They're going to walk away. So my best advice is bring ideas. Forget about prices. That's a commodity business. You don't want to be in that business.
I would agree. And I think many of the people who are listening are agreeing. Kathy says, somebody will always sell less than you. Brilliant, Norman. And Jeremy Picker has said, no one wins when you race to the bottom. And that's a very true comment.
Definitely.
Our customers have to bring value to their customers, or they really are, can be taken out by technology. Why have we always had professional outside managers for ASI? Often people ask us that. Like we have ASI CEO Tim Andrews, who joined us in 2003. Why is that your philosophy?
I learned from my father. He said, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you are. And that's not hard, particularly, but in any regard, we have done that consistently, and it works. People that are great managers aren't necessarily born into a single family. And therefore, rather than having individuals in our family run our business, we have an advisory board where we discuss, but the decisions are made, in this case, and has been for 14 years, very successfully, by Tim Andrews.
Time flies, it's been 18 years.
18, thank you very much. So that's why we believe a professional manager is best for our business.
And best for the industry as well.
Positively.
And why are you so confident? Because you always say the best is yet to come in our industry. Why are you so confident that the best is yet to come?
Two reasons. Promotion products work. They have a greater return on investment than anything else. Whether it's billboards or television or radio or newspapers or magazines. But the second part is this. The estimate for this year in all advertising expenditures is $270 billion. That's everything. How much will our industry do? About 20 billion, a little bit more. Okay, look at the difference. 270 is being spent on advertising. We have the most effective advertising, and we're only getting $20 billion. Our industry has grown consistently, except during the COVID time, and will grow consistently going forward. And it's such an easy concept. I guarantee you, if I'm around in 10 or 20 more years and get a chance to talk to you again, our sales, ours meaning the industries, will be far bigger than the 20+ billion it is now.
I would agree. And I think also, when people are cutting costs and they're looking at, $100 million or $10 million TV ad and a $20,000 or $30,000 promotional products order, it's a lot easier to make a difference on your bottom line if you're cutting $1 million ad and keep the promotional products. As a family business, we love having our kids involved. I love working with you. And
so do I love working with you.
And Matt, not so much. No, just kidding. But members of our family's fourth generation have always been involved. We've tried to always involve them one way or another. Well, whether they've helped out at trade shows or interns. Why is that important to you?
I believe that we're in a multi-generation business, and therefore exposing the next generation to our business. And doesn't mean they're going to be forced to come into it or that they choose to come into it. But we have 5 children, 2 of which are involved in the business, Stephanie and Matthew. Hopefully you know both of them. They're smarter and work harder than I do. And we have 10 grandchildren. 7 of them have done interns between college years or summer vacations or whatever.
We've actually had 9 now.
Well,
9 of them.
When you get to my age, you forget some of the specifics. That's why I have Steffi next to me to help me. And I think that it does many things. It helps them see what business is about, helps them see what their family does, and doesn't necessarily mean that there's no pressure, I hope, from our generation to encourage, yes, to make the next generation go into the business. And I just think it's great. I think that they learn. That's one reason we have a great internship program, not for our family only. We have, I think, something close to 300 interns this year that were out among many suppliers and distributors. We had about 10 ourselves. These aren't family members. These are college students in summer vacation. First of all, it gets people knowledgeable about our industry. And secondly, the good thing, in my opinion, is that it helps people understand what business is about. And so when these young people who are in college and have been an intern somewhere in the industry go out in the real world, they're going to understand the value of promotion products.
And I remember your philosophy for all of us was that we had to work elsewhere before coming to ASI. Right. And so I remember I was a teacher, but then I worked as a supplier. And they're no longer in the industry because they did everything wrong. But I learned more from that experience. And I think your philosophy was we should work for 2 years elsewhere. And I think that was fantastic because when I came to work for ASI, I realized that a lot of suppliers who kind of have their toe in the industry but aren't full-time in the industry really needed help and guidance. And I had set up the new supplier development department at that time to help guide them and help them come in the right way. And I know that you've been very proud of, as you were talking about, the summer intern program. Tell us a little bit also about your belief in our online and in-person education. Why do you like that?
We call it ASI University, and you might laugh and say, well, you don't have buildings, you're not having full-time people going to class. No, but we have an amazing number of classes. And if you get an opportunity to sign up for any of the classes, all of them are available both at a trade show of ours and also more significantly virtually. And eventually you'll get a Massey or BASI designation. That gives you a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience. And I recommend it highly. I'm proud of what we do. We spend, I think, $1 million a year on education. And it's a thing that makes it great for our industry because it helps people in our industry understand what is available, what you can do, how you can make it grow.
And helps them sell better and hopefully make more money. I think one of the things you taught me was that if you can take care of your customers, they help take care of your business. And
positively,
I think that we constantly think about what we can do for our customers. I think we have a chance for one more question. And so, Dad, I don't know if you have any final comments, or maybe you can share with us what taught you the most over the years, or what do you want to share with your final thoughts?
Stephanie, you probably know this, and you've heard me say it 100 times would be a modest amount, but you learn nothing from success. You learn when people tell you what you could do better. When they pat you on the back and say, good job, you didn't learn anything. So I encourage you to surround yourself with people that are going to say to you what they believe. Doesn't make them always right. But if you hear that something, a different idea than the one you're using or proposing to use, then you ought to consider it. So I learned that from my father, that you learn from failure. If you don't do well, learn why you didn't do well. If every time you come to bat, you hit a home run, you don't learn anything. I know that's oversimplification, but believe me, it's worked for me for 70 years. Hopefully you'll go in this industry that long and learn and have your own points of view. But the industry is great. We love it. Our family loves it. And hopefully we will continue to grow together.